Okay. This will call to order the Board of Adjustment meeting on September 4th, 2025. Diane, would you please call the roll?
John DeLacio.
Here.
Jesse Slesser.
Here.
Aurora Ramirez.
Here.
Brenda Cullinan.
Here.
Mark Ronalds.
Here.
Michelle Wilson.
Here.
Suzanne Donahue.
Here.
And I'm going to go slightly out of order if we can change it so that the approval of agenda is before the election of officers. If we could get an approval of agenda with that change.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then we'll go ahead to the election of officers. That's why I've started the meeting today, so we can go ahead and elect a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and a second vice chairperson.
Can I nominate somebody?
Sure, yeah. The way it'll work is just you'll just make a motion to approve somebody
Okay, thank
as
you.
the chair, and then a second, and then if anybody has any other potential nominations, you could ask to amend that motion. So, if you want to go
I'd
ahead.
like to nominate John DeLacio for our chairperson.
Second.
Is there any amendment to the motion? Okay, if we could have a roll call, please.
John DeLacio.
Yes.
Jesse Slesser.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan.
Yes.
Mark Ronald.
Yes.
Michelle Wilson.
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
Yes.
Great. And I'll just finish up the election, and then I'll ceremoniously pass the gavel to you, John. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, and can we have a motion for the vice chairperson?
I'll nominate Brenda Cullinan.
I'll second that.
Okay, can we have a roll call, or unless there's any amendment by anyone?
And who made the second? Thank you.
Can we go ahead and do a roll call, please?
John DeLacio.
Yes.
Jesse Slesser.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan.
Yes.
Mark Ronald.
Yes.
Michelle Wilson.
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
Yes.
Excellent. And is there a motion for a second vice chairperson?
Sure.
I'll nominate Mark Ronald.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any amendment?
We're all on the right seat now.
Okay, can we do a roll call, please, Diane?
John DeLacio.
Yes.
Jesse Slesser.
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan.
Yes.
Mark Ronald.
Yes.
Michelle Wilson.
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, congratulations to everyone, and Chair DeLacio, take it over.
Thank you.
Chair, we need to move you to where Suzanne is sitting. You two need to change chairs.
Do I slide down or am I good
You
here?
can stay there.
Okay.
And I'm vice, I just stay next to
You
him?
can stay right there.
next to him. Okay.
Should I take my candy?
See, now you're no longer on the end.
I wish. As long as you two don't leave.
All right. Next on the agenda, so we approved the agenda, so we'll move to the minutes, which there are none. So we'll move to swearing in of the public. To members of the public, anyone that is planning to speak on any items needs to be sworn in. Diane, if you could do so.
Please raise your right hand. By the authority vested in me, the notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Next up on the agenda is comments from the public, and these are comments for any items that are not on the agenda. So if anyone would like to speak on non-agenda items, you could have 3 minutes. Seeing none, we will move to the public hearing items. The first item is 1916-1920 Spanish Trail, file number 2025150. To staff.
If you could, just before we get started, if you could read the quasi-judicial rules.
Sure.
Thank you.
This hearing shall be conducted in accordance with the City of Delray Beach quasi-judicial rules. The applicant and the city shall be permitted to present their case. The public shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes, each, or a maximum of 6 minutes, if the person represents an organization or group who are present but agree not to speak. The city commission and the applicant may be allowed to cross-examine a witness. The city or the applicant will be allowed to offer rebuttal testimony. The decision to approve or deny an application or appeal may not be legally made upon personal views as to whether a project is a good project or not, nor may a decision be based on the number of citizens who support or oppose a particular project. The law requires that all decisions must be made on the basis of whether the project meets the requirements of law, the comprehensive plan, and the land development regulations.
Excellent. And if you could ask for ex parte communications as
Sure.
well.
Anyone on the board have any ex parte communications to disclose? We'll
Yes, yes, I do. I reviewed a YouTube video of the last meeting, and then I also went on the property appraiser website to see the date of sale.
Brenda? Nothing since the last meeting, although previously I drove past and emailed staff a few questions.
Nothing.
And you guys have just that one email in front of you as well that was provided to everyone from Dora Robluski.
So I drove by the property and emailed questions to staff.
Anyone else?
And if I just might say one more thing, obviously some of you were here last time when this was started to be presented, and then we didn't go through with the hearing, but this one will actually be a de novo hearing, so if you can just kind of ignore anything you've heard in the last hearing and just start from the beginning here today.
Okay, very well. Now
Good
we
eve-
will. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're
Good
fine.
evening. I'm Jennifer Buse, planner. For the record, I would like to put in file number 2025-150, and the applicant is ready to present.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I know that this has been continued, so we're happy to bring it back before the board to present it in full this time. This is
Sorry, could you please state your name?
Sure. Sydney Satz, attorney on behalf of the property owner,
Thank you.
of course. This is a variance request on behalf of 1920 and 1916 Spanish Trail. The property is a duplex. It is split into two lots, two addresses. It has two parcel identification numbers. It is one platted lot. It is located in residential medium zoning. Again, that's because it's a duplex. It abuts single-family residential lots. And across the street from it, on the western side, is a plaza. The ordinance that controls for purposes of pools is section 4.615 G1A. That ordinance sets forth certain setback requirements. So for the rear of a property, it's 10 feet. For the side interior line of a property, it's 10 feet. For a side street of a property, it's 10 feet. For the front of a property, it defers to the setback requirements that apply to duplexes. Because this is a duplex, the setback requirement for the pool in this case is 25 feet. I'm going to show you a couple pictures of what the property looks like so you can get a sense of what we're looking at today and what this variance really pertains to. For all intents and purposes, what is defined for purposes of this lot as a front of the property functions as the rear. This is the landscape plan that we intend to put into effect. In terms of the pools, again, it's a variance request for two pools to minimize the variance, the 25-foot setback requirement to 10 feet. So it's a 15-foot difference. The two pools will be located on either lot, either address, one pool per address. There will be landscape screening around the fence. We intend to install a 4-foot fence to ensure the privacy concerns are addressed and to ensure that there is adequate privacy for both the neighborhood and the inhabitants of the properties. This is what that fence looks like. This is what we intend to install today. It is a 4-foot aluminum perimeter fence. We also intend to install landscaping that will grow around the fence, so again, there is privacy screening in consideration of both the neighborhood and the residents' privacy as well. This is the current site plan. So as you can see, there are a couple of features specific to this property that are really relevant for purposes of today's hearing. There is mechanical equipment on the southern side of the property. There is additionally the entrances to the duplexes, the concrete walkways that you can see on the top and the bottom. Those are walkways, it's concrete. The back half of the property is grass. There is nothing there to date that would inhibit us from installing these pools. But the other sides of the property have certain fixtures attached to them right now that make the concept of installing pools almost impossible. There is also a lift station on that side of the property, the bottom half of the screen that we're looking at. It is outside the property line, but it is relevant for purposes of determining where a pool could be installed on this property. This is the survey, again, depicting the current layout of the property. Those sides that you're looking at on the top and the bottom, those are the entrances to the duplexes. That back half is considered the front of the property. The other side of the property that says concrete driveway, it is used as a driveway. That is considered the rear of the property. So the only side that is controlled or governed by this 25-foot setback is the front of the property. This is the rear of the property as mentioned. The slideshow does say 25-foot setback. I just want to clarify for purposes of everyone's understanding today. It is 10 feet on all of the other lot sides. So that this is subject to a 10-foot setback. But again, this is a driveway that is used for parking. This, as you can see from the image, there is concrete. It is functionally used as the front of the property, and that is how it has always existed. Also in these images, in the left-hand corner to assist, because I know it can be confusing to look at this lot, there are stars that depict exactly what you're looking at in terms of where these pictures are taken from. I hope that that assists as you review the presentation tonight. This photo is taken from the rear of the property, so again, where that driveway is, facing the plaza directly in front of it. This is the side street, so on the corner of Tropic Boulevard. There is a lift station here. You can see it in that second image. And on the left-hand corner of the screen, you can see exactly where these pictures were taken from. This is the front of the property. So this is where we intend to install these pools. And again, really it is the only place functionally that makes sense to have pools at a property like this. It is all green space. And again, it is, for all intents and purposes, it functions as a backyard. This is another photo of what is considered the front of the property. This is the interior side of the property. So this is shockingly, it is the interior, so it is between the two lots that abut one another. The neighboring lot is directly next to it. There is a concrete walkway, as you can see in the right image, that leads into one of the duplex units. These are the views from Tropic Boulevard and from the corner of Spanish Trail and Tropic Boulevard. This is the interior side facing the neighboring lot. So you can see just how close these lots are and really how unrealistic it would be to install a pool around the corner. The only space that makes sense functionally is the front of the property. These are a couple renderings just to give the board an idea of what it would look like. That screening fence that I talked about, the landscaping that we intend to install to ensure privacy and to beautify this property are all addressed in this rendering. This is a view from the side street from Tropic Boulevard. This is the view from Spanish Trail. Again, this is the front of the property. We intend to make sure that the property is adequately covered to ensure, again, as I have stated, the privacy of the residents in addition to the privacy of the community. It will also function as a sound barrier, and more than that, it is a huge improvement from the current state of the property today. These are a couple of images that show what those pools will look like, in addition to the landscaping that we intend to do on the inside. So all in all, that's the variance request tonight. It is a request to reduce the 25-foot setback to 15 feet. The real issue here is the fact that the front of the property, what is covered in grass right now, is considered the front of the property when the driveway is on the other side. because of the classification of the front of the property and the manner that it's been classified under the code, it is subject to a higher setback requirement, that 25-foot setback requirement. I'm going to go back for a second to that first slide. If you look at the aerial of this property, the pools in the neighborhood are on the back lots. Of course, those rear areas, they are classified as the rear of the property. But for all intents and purposes, that is what this property serves as, what this area serves as. There are certain criteria that the board must consider. It is that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved and which are not generally applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings. That a literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties subject to the same zoning, that the special conditions and circumstances have not resulted from actions of the applicant, that granting the variance will not confer onto the applicant any special privilege, that the reasons established in the variance petition justify the granting of the variance, and that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of existing regulations. We submit tonight that this variance request is in compliance with all of these criteria. It is for all intents and purposes, that area of the property functions as the rear. If it were classified as the rear, it would only be a 10-foot setback, and the pools that we are proposing would be in compliance with the code. It is only because of the application of the code to this property that it is subject to a more stringent requirement. But again, looking at the layout of the property with the concrete walkways on either side, with the mechanical infrastructure that is in place on both sides, especially the lift station on the bottom half of the property and the concrete walkways that lead into the duplex units, the only place that makes any practical sense to put these pools is what is considered the front of the property. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have regarding our request.
Thank you. We'll hold that. We'll go to the staff presentation and we'll do the cross-examination. Staff?
You want to sit for now, and then they'll call you back up with
Sure.
any
I
questions.
don't mind standing.
Good evening again, Jennifer Buse, planner. This is agenda item 8A, and it is for 1916 and 1920 Spanish Trail. The variance request is to reduce the minimum front setback requirement from 25 feet to 10 feet associated with 2 new swimming pools for each, a swimming pool for each unit. So some site information. This is in the Tropic Isle neighborhood, and it was developed as a duplex in 1994 and just recently came in for 2 addresses, which is now fee simple. 1916 Spanish Trail is approximately 4,700 square feet, and 1920 is a little bit larger at 5,200 square feet. This is in the RM zoning district, and adjacent is multifamily to the north and south, single family, which is R1AA-B to the east, and planned commercial, which is Delray South to the west. This just gives a little bit more of an illustration. So there is a buffer between commercial properties on South Federal Highway and Tropic Isle neighborhood. It is PC and AC, which AC is our automotive. And then the vehicular access for the RM right here is solely from the alley for these developments right here. All of them take access from the alley. Just to point out here too, the setbacks for a duplex, the front is 25 feet, the side street is 25 feet. The side interior is 15 and the rear is 25 feet. And then across the way for the single family homes, you have a 25-foot front setback, a 20-foot side street setback, a 7.5 interior, and a rear 25. So the RM is a more intense zoning district with larger setbacks than what is across the street. Again, this just shows you the Tropic Boulevard and Spanish Trail where the corner of the property is, and then you see the alley and Tropic Boulevard, and the alley again is where they take their access. So this is 1916, and this is to reduce the front setback from 25 to 10 feet for a new swimming pool. The swimming pools are not allowed in the front setback for any zoning district, and in this particular zoning district, the front setback is 25 feet. And all other sides, the pool has to be set back 10 feet from the rear and to the side and to the side interior. Again, this is just showing you the front of the property along Spanish Trail. And this is 1920 Spanish Trail. The request is the same, from 25 feet to 10 feet from the for this new swimming pool. So some things, the request is for the determination and the location of the pools for the pool edge per findings, because we do the setback from the edge of the pool to the property line. Some elements that will be reviewed during permit that aren't part of tonight are the pool deck, which have to be set back of 5 feet from the property line for drainage purposes. The fence, and in this particular neighborhood, there is a 40-foot site visibility triangle, which means any landscaping or fence outside of that has to be below 3 feet. The pool barrier, which is a requirement of a minimum of a 4-foot height, and emergency access. There's only one way in and one way out to both of these duplexes at this time. So these are your findings. You have the special conditions and circumstances, which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building, that the literal interpretation would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by others, and that special conditions and the circumstances have not resulted from actions of the applicant. That this will not confer onto the applicant a special privilege, that the variance petition justifies the granting and is the minimum variance that can be seeked, and the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the neighborhood. And these are your options for board action. I'm sorry, that concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll move on to public comments, if any members from the public would like to speak. There's not a particular order, so just be sure to state your name and address, and
Sure.
you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Barbara Jane DeGolier. I reside at 1909 Spanish Trail, which is diagonally north of the property that is in discussion this evening. Pardon me? East. Oh, and east, north and east. My front yard faces west, which faces the front yard of this property that functions as a front yard and always has. I purchased in 1995, shortly after this construction started, and have seen its iterations and all of that in Tropic Isle from when we had, quote, the 2 commercial buildings that transitioned into the Trader Joe and FedEx shopping plazas. We have a lot of traffic in that area. There's one way in and one way out of the north end of Tropic Isle, which is right at that intersection and right at that corner, which is coupled also with the lift stations and the mechanical equipment that they were discussing, okay? There are a lot of walkers in our neighborhood. There are a lot of people that drive through that intersection going south and north in the development, and it's always been hazardous. This situation, I feel, would just create greater danger and complicate the entire traffic jam that is backing up since the plazas were connected, okay, from Trader Joe's through and to the light. I just think it would really impact our neighborhood, our environment. And again, I'm going to state that that is the front yard. It's functioned as a front yard because the entrances or the door entrances are to the sides, meaning north and south, and their garages are in the quote, I don't know if it's an alleyway or a street. I can't remember because I remember the whole lawsuit that started back then. But whatever that is behind the plaza to the double garages. It's going to impact us tremendously, I think, from a standpoint of combination congestion, walkers, cars, vehicles, and what we have even backing up now because of the congestion between Mazda and the plaza at the light. Thank you. I'm completely against it.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question before I start my 3 minutes? Because I've sent a number of emails to all the board members.
Those names.
And
Could you state your name and address,
I'm Michael
please?
Young. I live at 1807 Spanish Trail.
Okay. And
I've sent a number
Kelly,
of
I guess
emails.
I defer to you real quick about a
You're-
pre-comment.
You're welcome to ask questions, but they're not required to answer them. So if you just state it as part of your comment, and then if the board determines that they want to answer it, they'll go ahead and do that during their discussion.
All right, I'm Michael Young. I live at 1807 Spanish Trail. I've lived there for 21 years. I've sent, before every meeting, emails to all the board members, and they were not mentioned this time in ex parte communication. So I'd like to know why not. Number one. Number two, that is a major entrance to our neighborhood. There are over 400 homes that do not have any pools in the front yard. There are a lot of walkers. We have no sidewalks. There is already a dangerous traffic flow, and the blockage of the privacy fencing also blocks the stop signs that are there, and there's a four-way stop where nobody stops. So this just makes it worse. So there are going to be accidents. And if this is approved here, it's going to be probably asked to be approved at other places in Delray Beach. So you're opening up a can of worms you may not want to open up. Nobody really that I can think of that has a home has a pool in the front yard. The attorney before said that the people bought the property and wanted to put the pools in because they wanted their parents to retire here. And this is why would you put your parents in a spot like this with all the beautiful places we have in Delray Beach? It didn't make any sense. We also are on the verge of a major road improvement that the city has a 14-foot easement. And I don't know how this impacts that, but they're putting in new sewer, new water, resurfacing and whatever, and each section, and this will be the first section, is an 18-month project. And I don't even know if that's been taken under consideration at all, but there's no way they can put something within 10 foot of the road when the city has a 14-foot easement. That makes no sense. And as I say, there are no sidewalks. I walk my dog. I almost get run over by Uber people and DoorDash people and all the delivery people. Amazon, the postal people and the Amazon people are a little bit better. But I think this is just a bad precedent for the city of Delray Beach to set. Plus, if this property was off by itself somewhere, I could see that this would be an acceptable alternative, but it is part of an already established from 1960 neighborhood that has all pools in the backyard, higher income, or I shouldn't say property value properties, larger, up to $10, $15 million. And all this does is devalue all our properties. And I don't think that's an acceptable thing for the board to consider. So other than the danger, God knows if somebody gets killed because they can't see the stop sign. Because when you come south on Spanish Trail, you can barely see the stop sign now. People don't stop at stop signs. I feel like, and I live north of the property, I feel like I live on the Indy 500.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Any other members of the public who would like to speak?
Hello, good evening. Members of the board, my name is CJ Minardi, 700 East Atlantic Avenue, Delray Beach, Florida, 33483. I'm a local resident real estate broker here in Delray Beach, as well as the representative that sold the property to the buyers at 1916 and 1920 Spanish Trail. I work extensively in these neighborhoods, Tropic Isles, and most of the neighborhoods east of 95 in Delray Beach. And the realities are that pools are not just common, but expected amenities on these properties. The unique lot configurations and setback requirements of this particular property, however, make it impossible to install a pool without a variance. Where the city has outlined in this image directly in front of you, where it says buildable area, that's actually the front door and the accessory garage door to the property. So it would be like stepping out the front door and falling into a swimming pool. So that's not really a good representation of allowable area there. The owner, the hardship isn't an issue that's created by the owners, but simply because of the property itself and the way that things are on the property. I also want to acknowledge to the residents that a few neighbors have raised concerns about visibility in the right-of-way, safety, and potential noise, which the owner has taken those concerns seriously, and you'll probably hear from Lewis next, who's a local landscape architect, and has designed solutions that will improve visibility, enhance safety, and provide additional buffering to reduce noise. This result should actually be a more attractive and safer environment than what currently exists there today. Beyond these specific details, this request also speaks to a broader principle of homeowners' rights. A property owner should have reasonable ability to enjoy their home in a manner consistent with the neighborhood. Pools are a standard feature here, and denying this request would place these homeowners at a disadvantage compared to their neighbors, despite their willingness to go above and beyond the addressed concerns. Also, for context about not having any swimming pools in front yards, there's a number of projects around downtown Delray, some of which have come before this board, that were all granted permission to put pools in the front yard. Magnolia Place, one of those, is a Seaside Builders project, 5 east-facing, 5 west-facing townhomes, all of which have pools in front yards. Those approvals that were recognized were the same types and similar constraints, allowing pools was both reasonable and consistent with the spirit of the code. Granting this variance would not negatively impact the neighborhood. On the contrary, it would actually bring these homes in aligned with the surrounding properties, improve their usability, and support property values in the area. For these reasons, I respectfully ask the board to approve the variance on behalf of the owners, and thank you for your time and consideration this evening.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? All right,
Thank you very much.
next we'll move on to rebuttal and cross-examination from staff.
Staff goes first for rebuttal. It
Go
doesn't
either
matter.
way.
Yes.
Are there some points, I'm sorry, Amy Alvarez, for the record, Assistant Development Services Director. Are there some points that the public made that we can address, or we'll wait and see if you have comments for those?
You're welcome to now.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that there's been comments about, I guess, safety and the intersection. To remember that when the, regardless of the pools, if the property owners want to install a fence or anything at a corner, they have to comply with the land development regulations, site visibility requirement. In this case, if a fence is installed because, you're required one for a pool, anything at that corner will have to meet a 40-foot site visibility triangle. And so what that triangle does is, or how you apply it, is you square off the corner of the property, and I don't know if I can, where's the mouse? It's not working. You square off the property, and then you're gonna go on this one, along Spanish Trail, you'll go up 40 feet, and then along Tropic Boulevard, you'll go west 40 feet, and then you're going to connect them to create that triangle. Within that 40-foot triangle, You cannot have anything over 3 feet, or if you have trees, the trees they have to be clear up to 6 feet. So between 3 feet and 6 feet, there can't be anything to impact the visibility of drivers, pedestrians, bike riders, anybody. So they would be required to comply with that requirement. Yes. So again, the fence would be limited to 3 feet in height. Now, for all pools require a 4-foot barrier. So they'll have to address that. I'm just want to bring up things that were brought up during comments to know that, and like Jen mentioned in her presentation, there are lots of items that have not yet been reviewed because it's not part of this request. This request will allow them to get to the building permit stop as part of their project. And that's when landscaping requirements will come into play, everything. So again, the site visibility triangle requirements are applicable regardless of a swimming pool. They have to meet that. And just to mention the easement, I guess we're aware of the Public Works project. If there is an easement that is going to be part of this property, it might be something that's not in perpetuity, that is just during the process of the project. But again, that is something that would be coordinated during permit review, because building permits that impact different departments go to those different departments for review to make sure that everybody is in compliance with what everybody is supposed to be reviewing. So we would know that at that time. Maybe, if that is the case with the easement, maybe the permit, if they're not able to coordinate, maybe the permit and the installation would have to wait. I don't know, I've not encountered that situation, but I'm just saying it's not something to say you can never improve anything on your property. I think I've touched on all of my notes. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to mention, Jen.
I did. This right here, I just want to point out the blue is the area where the 10-foot setback on the side and in the front. That is just showing you where it meets the requirement for a pool to be. The red area is within the front setback of the 25 feet. So the pools can be adjusted to maybe minimize some of the setback issues.
Thank you. I guess we'll move on to board discussion at this point.
Let's give the applicant the rebuttal and cross-examination as well, if we could.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the members of the public who came out to speak tonight. As staff noted, a lot of these concerns when it comes to site triangles, visibility issues, they will be addressed at the permitting phase. We're not there yet. We're just trying to get over the speed bump here. In terms of the placement of the pools, do you mind telling me, Kelly, how much time I have for rebuttal?
3 minutes.
Okay, great. I'm gonna have our landscape architect come up for a moment just to talk a little bit about why they're located where they are so that you guys can hear from the professional on the team. Louis, do you mind coming up? Could you state your name for the record?
Yes, for the record, Louis Vlahos, landscape architect. The reason we locate them there is simple. That's basically their private areas. That's, they identify with the garage area, which is defined as the rear property as their front and access to their garage and parking, and they identify what we have as the front of the duplexes as their privacy. The other reason is we have existing conditions on the side properties that limit, especially mechanical equipment and so forth, entries to the home and access to their homes that pretty much eliminate having to locate the pools in that area. That said, I think that this will definitely be a betterment for the property and the community. I don't think that we're proposing to add any additional traffic to the pedestrians on the street. As a matter of fact, the pools are 10 feet from the property line, not from the edge of the road, as one of the comments was. The setback from the edge of the road is 25 feet, and the hedge and fence would be 14 foot from the edge of the road. Unlike some of the properties across the street that are 2 feet from the edge of the road. And
In terms of where the pools are placed, could you talk about the overhang and why they're placed where they're placed at the front of the property?
The other reason is it's normal on an existing property to keep it 5 feet away from the edge of the building. Foundation's number one. Number two, runoff from the roof. You don't want that running off into your pool. It would be a long-term maintenance. Hence why we didn't put them up against the building, or we could go 5 feet away and, maybe increase that, but this is what we felt was optimum at the time when we were coming with these concepts. Obviously, we would take into consideration the visibilities and so forth.
Thank you, Louis. In terms of these side areas here, as has been stated, there is existing mechanical equipment. That is the entrance to both sides of the duplex. That is the ingress and egress into and out of the buildings. To put pools on that side, notwithstanding the fact that they would be irregular, you're talking about an angular area that is relatively small, in addition to the fact that that side on the top half of the screen abuts a neighboring lot. I showed you images in our presentation of how tight those lots really are when you look at them. It's just impractical, and you're good, don't worry. It's just impractical to put them anywhere other than the what is considered the front of the property. Again, the biggest thing is the mechanical equipment, the concrete that's in place there, to put the pools on the sides as opposed to the front of the property, this side over here on the right-hand side of the screen. It just wouldn't make sense. It would be a huge burden to the property owners. They would have to remove the existing concrete. The layout of the property to enter and exit the homes would be obstructed. There are many issues with that. This configuration that you're looking
Sydney,
at.
that actually was the 3 minutes, so if you just
Sure. I think I can wrap it up.
I think there may be more questions for you, so yeah, we'll move on to board discussion.
Sure, that sounds good. Do you want me to stay up here, or would you rather I?
You can sit down, and we'll call you back up.
Sounds
Thank you.
good.
So with that, we will now move on to board discussions. And
I'll ask something.
yeah, please.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, how are you? Good evening. Have you, the people that are applying for this, have you discussed this, or are any of your neighbors aware of your intentions? And have you heard anybody say to you, like, we want to petition you, yes or no? Is there any problems? Do you foresee any problems with any of your neighbors?
I'm Alex Lewis, the property owner. We have spoken. We actually had a meeting. We scheduled a meeting at the Paris Baguette, which is right in front of here. We sent out emails and notifications to neighbors, to anyone who was opposed or anyone who had questions, in order to try to get along with the neighbors. When we purchased this property, we looked at the survey. We met with the landscape architects. We met with Jeff Pugh, who's our Pugh Pools, and everyone foresaw that as being the rear of the property. This was submitted for permit, and this variance request came up at the time of permit. And so we went around. We discussed with as many neighbors as we could. We really tried to, and we took the neighbor feedback positively. This is something that, we're not developers. My wife and I are both physicians. This is something that, was a project that we, like we said, we intended for, relatively personal use. And we want, to be good neighbors where, as much as we can.
Thank you.
You have any other comments, or should we go down the line?
That's it.
I have a question.
I just want to make one quick comment. I think it's appropriate to ask about the conversations, but I do think you just need to keep in mind that it can't be whether it's well liked or disliked by the neighboring, and that you just need to stick to the findings that are ahead of you. So.
Okay, fine.
I have a question for the staff. In the presentation, it shows, I just want to make sure I'm reading it right, in 4.6.15, swimming pools may extend into the rear, interior, or street side setback, no closer than 10 feet to any property line. Swimming pools shall not extend into the front setback. So that means, according to this, no swimming pools are supposed to be in the front at all, regardless of it being within a setback or not? Is that how that reads?
No, it's not supposed to be in the front setback. So in this case, it's 25 feet. If they had 25 feet and wanted to put the pool outside of that 25 feet, they wouldn't be in here today.
Okay.
Can I just get clarification on that point? So if they had 40 feet in the front with a 25-foot setback, they could put a big pool in their front yard, right?
They would have, I'm not real good at math, but that would be 15 feet,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and just for clarification, the code does distinguish in parts between front yard and front setback. So the setback is that defined area that's
So
dimensioned.
there's nothing in the, if I understand you correctly, there's nothing in the LDR that precludes pools in the front yard.
Correct.
Just in the front setback.
Just in the front setback.
Thank you.
Which then requires relief.
I have an additional question. So how does one know as a property owner what would be considered front yard versus rear in this situation, because it is a little bit obscure?
Well, typically, if any property owners have a question, or their professional that they're working with has a question, they can call our office and ask us about that. But just to be clear, vehicular access to a property doesn't define the front of your property. Alleys are used for vehicular purposes as a secondary way to access your property, but the front of a property is defined by it's typically the least the smallest,
The
I
least
guess.
frontage.
Yeah.
The what, I'm sorry?
It's the least frontage.
Least frontage.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the word though. The smallest dimension, the smallest width, I guess. So that's your base on defining the front, and then we can go into other things, but in this case, that's the front. On this one, just when it was developed in the 90s, they appropriately used the alley for their vehicular access. And just, unfortunately, I think if they would have had a front door on the front, if their main access was from Spanish Trail and maybe a walkway, had more of that front elevation character, it probably would have been more obvious to everybody. But that's not the case, but that doesn't mean it changes. The code does not require you to have a door on your front elevation.
Thank you.
And I guess building on that, the neighbors to the direct north, do they have the same property orientation, or is it inverted?
To the direct north?
Yeah, plan north.
Oh, yeah. It looks like this whole stretch between Eve Street and Tropic Boulevard, everybody has the same configuration. So yeah, and that's the front yard for them as well. It just looks like they've got more units in those buildings.
Thank you.
I had a couple questions for the city. So that is just an alleyway. It's not a named street. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It's alley,
And then-
named street. I think when it was developed, as Jen mentioned in her presentation, the RM zoning is that buffer between the commercial properties and then the single family development. So I think they were wanting to protect the single family development from the vehicular access to those properties in that block by
Since it's an
making
alley,
it go onto the
they
alley.
couldn't use that as a street address.
Correct. It's not named.
Right. And then
And
you-
just to clarify, even if they did apply to name the alley and that was approved, that still would not shift it.
well, that would be a separate request that they could apply for.
It's
I've seen
sometimes
some people go
properties
through
need to
that.
be named, but in this case, it's probably not something that would even go through because they are on two named streets.
You mentioned the 40-foot sight line, just for clarification. That was where the two lines of the property meet?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I can understand, it seems to me, building a pool is a major construction project, and moving air conditioners or a walkway is not a major project. It's significant, I understand, but it's not obvious to me that the parties have considered that seriously, considering the magnitude of this kind of a deviation. Similarly, there's a reason that the town has set up front yards as front yards and backyards as backyards down a block, because that has to do with the quality of that particular community. And to say that the front yard is where the car goes in, that means all the homes, and we have a lot of them in this community, that are in alleyways, all those people got their houses wrong. Also, last is a question. Is there access to the house from the garage, or must you walk around to get in?
There is access from the garage.
I have a few questions. So the defined rear setback where the garage is, that is what, 25 feet? So is that an existing nonconformity? Or like what's the actual distance from the rear setback to the beginning of the structure?
I think it's 14 feet there, and this code just actually changed to, what was it before? It's 25 feet now, which makes it an existing nonconformity.
Got it. And I guess my next question, do you know the depth of your blue areas? How much allowable feet is there from the side of the house to fit a pool when we think about the minimum required variance?
Right. No. And I realized in the presentation that we could have made that not blue to represent we're not trying to represent a pool. We were just trying to show buildable area. But what that depth is,
I'm looking at the survey. I think
we'd
it
have to do
says
some quick
25
math.
feet from the property line to the structure.
Okay. So it's probably a 15-foot depth from the structure to the 10-foot setback from probably on both sides.
Got it. And then the pool needs to be 5 feet from the house. So there's effectively, if that math is correct, 10 feet of pool area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I have no further questions. I guess I'll make a few statements for board discussion. I think one of the things I struggle with here is this is a legal lot. It's not below the minimum size. And furthermore, what you're calling the front of the house and the back of the house, you have an existing nonconformity. So it'd be one thing if what you want to call your front was 25 feet back, but you're hugged up against that set line. So you're effectively, in my opinion, you're double dipping a little bit on the conforming lot. And I guess I'm struggling to understand what's unique about the property that you want to be able to encroach on effectively both sides. So I don't know if you've given thought to that about when you really analyze, is this the minimum required between the side and then what you're doing?
So when we originally looked at the property, and it was brought up at the last meeting, we brought in the original. We looked at the survey. We looked at the original plat of the property, and we met with the surveyor. We met with the landscape architect. We met with the pool company, and the being on the side again, there's the front door is in the middle of where the pool would be, so you'd be stepping out your front door into the pool. And the current backyard, I know a couple of you said you have driven by, is basically a jungle back there of, it's just basically unkempt space. And so, I didn't realize the alley was a non-conforming, in its current state. Again, we looked at the setback. I mean, we have another home in the Palm Trail neighborhood on Northeast 7th that has this exact same configuration, and the pool is in exactly the location that we're referring to. And there are every house in that strip, Northeast 7th, if you're familiar, has the pool with an alley behind it, a budding commercial, with the same configuration. So it was something that because of that again, we have the access point from the alley, and then the pool in the functional rear of the house, but what would be considered, I guess, in this case, the front.
Okay, thank you. I guess any other board members have any questions or comments, either among ourselves or based on the points that were raised?
I have a comment that was made earlier, but I think this is precedent setting. If we do this, you have a lot of homes in this kind of situation because of the alleys and all the alleys, and a lot of front yards that somebody might come in here and say it's a backyard.
I just want to, remind the board that you don't set precedent by each case. Every case is reviewed on its own, and I understand there may be people that may bring that in as an example. It doesn't mean that you can't look at every single property and say, this is the special condition that exists on X property and this is not existing on another property. So just want to make sure you guys understand that. I obviously understand where you're coming from, Mark, but it is a,
Okay, I stand corrected. I'll just make the point that there are a lot of homes configured as this home is configured.
If I may briefly respond to that comment.
Unless there's a question pending, it's board discussion. So.
Any other comments or questions from board members?
I will disagree with you, Mark. I feel like it already has come before this board numerous times since I've been here, previous to me being here, and it's the same thing over and over again. It's the same requests for pools.
And what's happened?
It's gone both ways.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay. Kelly, would you like to?
Sure. This is file number 2025-150, date September 4th, 2025. Agent Ryan Abrams, address 1916 Spanish Trail. Request is the consideration of a variance request from Land Development Regulations, Section 4.6.15 G1A, swimming pool, whirlpools, and spas. Yard encroachment to reduce the minimum front setback requirement from 25 feet to 10 feet associated with the construction of a new swimming pool for each unit in the duplex structure located at 1916 and 1920 Spanish Trail, pursuant to Land Development Regulations, Section 2.4.11A5, following consideration of all the evidence and testimony the Board of Adjustment for the City of Delray Beach finds as follows. And just to be clear, this is 1916 Spanish Trail. We will have to go through it for 1920 Spanish Trail as well. Okay. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, and which are not generally applicable to other land, structures, or buildings subject to the same zoning. Diane, if you could call the roll, please.
John DeLacio?
No.
Jesse Slusser?
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez?
No.
Brenda Cullinan?
Yes.
Mark Ronald?
No.
Michelle Wilson?
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue?
No.
That literal literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties subject to the same zoning.
John DeLacio,
No.
Jesse Slasser,
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez,
No.
Brenda Cullinan,
No.
Mark Ronald,
No.
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
No.
That special circumstances and conditions have not resulted from actions of the applicant.
John DeLacio,
Yes.
Jesse Slasser,
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Mark Ronald,
Yes.
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
Yes.
That granting the variance will not confer onto the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other land, structures, and buildings under the same zoning.
John DeLacio,
No.
Jesse Slasser,
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez,
No.
Brenda Cullinan,
No.
Mark Ronald,
No.
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
No.
That the reasons established in the variance petition justify the granting of the variance, and that the variance is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure.
John DeLacio,
No.
Jesse Slasser,
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez,
No.
Brenda Cullinan,
No.
Mark Ronald,
No.
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
No.
That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of existing regulations, will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare.
John DeLacio,
No.
Jesse Slasser,
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez,
No.
Brenda Cullinan,
No.
Mark Ronald,
No.
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
No.
Okay, because the applicant had to get a supermajority vote of every single one ahead of you, and because there are multiple that have received a no vote for 5-2, that would mean that it really should be a motion to deny, because the board has determined that it does not meet all of the requirements. So if somebody could make that motion, and even if you were on the side of the yeses at this point, since the board has determined that it doesn't meet the requirements, it really should be a denial. So if somebody could make the, motion to deny, and then go from there. Do you have a question, Susan? Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion to deny. We have to read the whole thing?
If you could, that would be great.
I move denial of the variance request for 1916 Spanish Trail from LDR section 4.6.15 GI to reduce the front setback from the minimum requirement of 25 feet to 10 feet associated with the construction of a swimming pool, by finding that the request is not consistent with the findings set forth in the LDR, section 2.4.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thunder was just for effect.
There's a motion in a second. Thank
I
you.
second it.
Could you call the roll?
Okay, I got Mr. Slasser for a second. Is that correct?
That's fine.
Okay. John DeLacio,
Yes.
Jesse Slasser,
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Mark Ronald,
Yes.
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
Yes.
Pursuant to LDR Section 2.1.7F, all decisions of the Board of Adjustment are final based on the entire record before it. The Board of Adjustment denies the variance with a vote of 7-0 solely for the purposes as presented at the meeting. The Board of Adjustment adopts this order this 4th day of September 2025. And the Board just as a note, the Board of Adjustment has applied the comprehensive plan and LDR requirements in existence at the time the original variance was submitted. The Board of Adjustment finds there is ample and competent substantial evidence. There is not ample and competent substantial evidence to support its findings in the record submitted, and adopts the facts contained in the record, including but not limited to staff reports, testimony of experts, and other competent witnesses supporting these findings. And that's it.
Are we do we have to read the second one?
Oh, thank you very much. All right. File number 2025-150. The date is September 4th, 2025. Agent Ryan Abrams. Address 1920 Spanish Trail. Request is the consideration of a variance request from Land Development Regulation Section 4.6.15 G1A. Swimming pool, whirlpools, and spas, yard encroachment to reduce the minimum front setback requirement from 25 feet to 10 feet associated with the construction of a new swimming pool for each unit in the duplex structure located at 1916 and 1920 Spanish Trail. Pursuant to Land Development Regulations, Section 2.4.11A5, following considerations of all the evidence and testimony, the Board of the Adjustment for the City of Delray Beach finds as follows. 1, that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, and which are not generally applicable to other land, structures, or buildings subject to the same zoning. Diane, if you could call the roll, please.
John DeLacio,
No.
Jesse Slesser,
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez, Brenda Cullinan,
No.
Mark Ronald,
No.
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
No. Excuse me, no.
That literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties subject to the same zoning.
John DeLacio,
No.
Jesse Slesser,
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez, Brenda Cullinan,
No.
Mark Ronald,
No.
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
No.
That the special conditions and circumstances have not resulted from actions of the applicant.
John DeLacio,
Yes.
Jesse Slesser,
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez.
Yes.
What was that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Mark Ronald,
Yes.
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
Yes.
That granting the variance will not confer onto the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other land, structures, and buildings under the same zoning.
John DeLacio,
No.
Jesse Slesser,
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez,
No.
Brenda Cullinan,
No.
Mark Ronald,
No.
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
Yes.
That the reasons established in the variance petition justify the granting of the variance, and that the variance is a minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure.
John DeLacio,
No.
Jesse Slesser,
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez,
No.
Brenda Cullinan,
No.
Mark Ronald,
No.
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
No.
That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of existing regulations, will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare.
John DeLacio,
No.
Jesse Slesser,
Yes.
Aurora Ramirez,
No.
Brenda Cullinan,
No.
Mark Ronald,
No.
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
No.
Okay, at this point, the same exists, that the applicant needed a supermajority of yes on all of the findings, and at this point, there are multiple questions that have been answered no, so the board would need to make a finding of denial, so if somebody could make that motion.
I'll make a motion. Do you want me to read it?
If you could, that would be great.
We're on 1920.
Yep, 1920.
Move denial of the variance request for 1920 Spanish Trail from LDR Section 4.6 to reduce the front setback from the minimum requirement of 25 feet to 10 feet associated with the construction of a swimming pool by finding that the request is not consistent with the findings set forth in the LDR, section 2.4.
Dan, could you call the roll?
Need a second?
I'll second it.
John DeLacio,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Laura Ramirez. Yes. Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Mark Ronald,
Yes?
Michelle Wilson,
Yes.
Suzanne Donahue.
Yes.
Pursuant to LDR Section 2.1.7F, all decisions of the Board of Adjustment are final. Based on the entire record before it, the Board of Adjustment denies the variance with a vote of 7-0 solely for the purpose as presented at the meeting. The Board of Adjustment adopts this order this 4th day of September 2025. The Board of Adjustment has applied the comprehensive plan and LDR requirements in existence at the time the original variance was submitted. The Board of Adjustment finds that there is not ample and competent substantial evidence to support its findings in the record submitted and adopts the facts contained in the record, including but not limited to the staff reports, testimony of experts, and other competent witnesses supporting these findings. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time this evening.
Thank you. So we'll move on to reports and comments. Anything from staff?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to point out the upcoming board meetings, and well, welcome our new members and welcome back, Aura. Our meeting, Board of Adjustment meetings are the first Thursday of the month. However, in October we have a shift because of a holiday. So the October meeting will be on the third Thursday of the month, and that's October 16th. So just to make sure you have that on your calendar. And then we'll have one just a few weeks later on November 6th for our regularly scheduled programming. Also for the newer members, Madison Brown is your board liaison, and so she will hopefully be back for your October 16th meeting. And again, welcome and congratulations. We have a new chair and vice chair and second vice chair. So
Thank you.
good.
Anything from board attorney?
No, nothing from me. Great job tonight, everyone. Thank you, and welcome to the new and returning members.
Gotcha. Anything from my fellow members? All right, we'll move to adjourn.
They have such a beautiful picture. They have a gorgeous. They have such a beautiful color.
Oh, thanks.